Merci d'être encore présent.
Thank you so much for being with us. So we're going to hear from our next speaker. So it's about building an OT SOC. And so we have Advens, we have Kevin Gaia, who's going to talk about his experience. So hello, everyone. So today I'm going to tell you about our experiences of installing some 40 SOC OTs. So just very quickly, so Kevin Gaia, and I'm in charge of the SOC OT services of the company, and I was particularly involved in the retail business before logistics in particular. So today, I'm going to give you some context around the different types of threats and what are some of the trends in needs, what are the strategies, and what are some of the lessons that we have learned in our recent experiences. So we're going to be talking about the opportunities and threats. So we'll be focusing on OT. So let's look at the situations of around-the-clock production, for example, agri-food, hospitals, and you can have no shutdowns. You need continual availability. So, you know, for an insulin pump or food production, you could find yourself with products that can't be sold. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then we'll talk about the life cycle of equipment. And, you know, what if you've got a client who's got, let me call it pre-war equipment? So what are we going to do? And then you've got some add-on systems that involve a lot of data that are being connected to older systems. Then the first thing I want to point out is the obsolescence of some protocols, such as Modbus. And there are some pretty serious vulnerabilities on these protocols. And so if you are exposing equipment, well, a lot of threats could get through the net. So we're talking about, you know, industries, oil industries, fertilizers, etc. But there's also, you know, so there's the environment concern, but the health industry is particularly concerned as well, and people's lives can be in danger. You know, if there's any kind of breach, then people's lives could be at stake. And of course, then we can talk about the industrial assets. So we're starting to see more convergence toward the Industry 4.0. And we're seeing a lot of remote maintenance, suppliers coming into the system, okay, and if there's an urgent need, well, you can't always get someone on site to do the repair or maintenance, so a lot of it is being done remotely. And so you can have remote opening and closing of valves and other systems. All of this is possible remotely now. So to get to the heart of the subject, so what are some of the specific challenges for OT? Well, first of all, there's the return on investment. You have to look at the performance side as well. So this is something that we try to explain, that this concerns the IT department as well. So we try to talk to our clients about the performance, threats to performance as well. So what we do is, when we when we see if there's any breakdown in the in this system, well, you've got your physical threat when the cables have been chewed by rats, but then you've got the cyber threat as well. So we've got our, there's the engineer side of people, but we've also got the health, quality, safety, environment people. So you have to consider risk in the very broad sense of the term. So, so you've got to have an on-site visit. What are some of the prerequisites? So there are many people involved on the technical and human side. On the technical side, if you've got probes, well, you have to place them in, correctly according to the system, and I'll say more about that. And then there's also has to be accreditations and training. So, it's a bit like providing gas masks. There are processes you have to comply with. And then there's the client-specific approach. So what type of the sites are they? Is it a pumping station? What is it? Some of these can be out in the middle of open fields. How do you secure them? So you have to work with the specific requirements of each site. And then you're going to have some unusual sites that might be near a lot of vibrations, under a hyperbaric atmosphere, exposed to certain temperatures. All of this has to be prepared. And so the constraints can be particular as well. There can be explosive materials. So we have to absolutely understand what the environment will be for any installation. As concerns essential tools and strategies, what you can see in the background really is a lot of this. It's meant to represent the circulation of information between assets, the VLAN, and so you need a real-time mapping of all of these interconnections. On the organizational side, we can look at the risks to try to understand the ecosystem of the client and how we can adapt to this. They have a maintenance plan that exists. So when should the alerts be communicated? At night when there's maintenance operations? Well, you have to find the right balance to decide, is there a crypto threat and for certain aspects? Can some operations continue to function? So how is availability of the installation going to be impacted? On the human side, there needs to be training and training of trainers, training of the leads on the systems as well. So security engineers, for example. So who is going to be receiving all of these security alerts? And we also need to train the operatives, all of the people on the factory floor. And also, those who really are hands-on on the production lines. And then there's the technical aspects. So we have to really fully understand the environment. We have to be very transparent here. So if there's any changes made to the system, what's going to happen? We have to see what the impact is going to be, so we talk about the God mode here sometimes, but you have to be aware of, if you touch one thing, what's going to happen to another thing. Okay, what about remediation? Well, here we need the qualification lab, and through this mapping, we can really start to understand very precisely what are the different interactions. Okay, so what are some of the key figures here? Well, it takes about 4 months to implement a standard SCOT OT. we've done 40 site installations, and we've got 40,000 assets protected through my SOC setup. So what have we learned from all of that? Well, there's some good practices as well. But as concerns NIST 8428, well, there's the remediation and qualification aspects. So, you can be a bit paranoid here that if do you need everything to be reported up as an alert or not? So what are your metrics here? For us, we tried to find a balance. We started slowly with levels of priorities, priority 1 and 2, and then we can move up. From there, you also have to work in close collaboration with suppliers. So, for example, if you've got some equipment that hasn't been updated, we have to make sure that the client is aware that they should be updating more frequently. Then, for example, we provide support in the choice of software such as Gmelec for security by design. So, maturity. You have to learn site by site. There are no one-shot or one-size-fits-all solution, in fact. So we have to help the client in identifying the risk zones and decide the level of alerts. So here, and deciding who receives these alerts. So I talked about constraints already, the prerequisites, the challenging environments, and accreditations. Now, in terms of good practices, well, how can we do this properly, putting in a SOC OT that's viable for the long term? Okay, well, you've got to start by training your cybersecurity leaders. You're not going to put in place a system and then have the client tell you, well, we don't have anyone to run it. So you've got to start training the automation engineers, production engineers, so having them learn as we go forward with the installation. Then you have to ensure that there's good in-house control, and you want to master the time frame as well. You don't want to be wasting time during the build phase, and then during the run phase, you need good efficiency, good collaboration, and then start working on how to manage crises. So there are a lot of different aspects at play here: security, regulatory, etc. And what I can say is, when you're just getting started, is to follow the recommendations of NIS2 directive. I know I'm out of time here. So the My SOC for OT out in the field in 40 seconds or less. So on the left, on the production lines, for example, there was a customer who had a problem of coupling between the packaging and the filling stations, and there had been incidents that were taking 8 hours to resolve, and now it's only 2 hours. Now, on the security side, if you look on the right, so a storm drain, there had been cyber attacks. So here the question was how to resolve issues quickly. Okay, but come and see us at stand C1 if you have any questions.